Oh, I can be passive. That's
Yeah, that might be it. What's the counter for that?
I mean, there isn't really one. I actually don't care that much, honestly. I think it's funny, but I was just thinking, like, when I was about chess, it was a little annoying because Jack just kept calling it chest,
Well,
and then like cracking himself up for like 10 minutes straight. It was so stupid.
I was in like drama in high school, and it was kind of just weirdly. Everyone was weirdly sexual all the time, but not sexual all the time. Does that track? Like he was just kind of jokey sexual all the time. I get that vibe.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, like, if I'm trying to talk about chess, and all he's doing is saying, "Her, I bet Haiti would be good at chest,"
Right, guys?
then
And elbowing
can't,
people next to him.
I can't like talk about the thing I want to talk about.
True.
No, I'm not allowed to talk about chess in this room either. Some little.
Well, technically, it's a cancer on communities, and it will.
No, I actually realize that now. It's actually funny because I got really pissed off with all the poker, but I can sort of see now, like, you just get, like, sort of into it, and then you're sort of half listening to the convo, right? But you're also doing something else. But it's totally awful because people, like, talk to you, and you're like, what? Who, where? You know, you're not present in any real sense with the conversation. Like, I don't believe people can do this, do a game or play chess or play poker, and also, be here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I made a girl finish the game just playing chess once.
You made her finish? You know what I mean?
See? Yeah, projects masculine energy. Yeah, I'm seeing.
You want to get your mind on a new.
Like you know what I mean? This is the shoulder pads of conversational tactics.
I like I like how you break it down.
Yeah, I'm a practicalist.
Mm.
I'm the only one that's right. These guys want to pretend like all this other philosophy shit matters, but does it make a hammer? No, it don't. So far.
Well, but if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Well, I mean exactly. Maybe not a hammer. Maybe you need a spatula.
No, I was just joking. Okay. That was the joke was I turned it into like a.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Philosophy thing. That I'm gonna make coffee.
And then something nail is a sexual innuendo.
No, it was. Well, no. Then he made it. He passively gatekeep me, and he turned it into a sexual innuendo.
Well, I did it sparingly. I'm not using it as a tactic. I'm like, because that's what they're gonna say, right? Because nail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good to get your car fixed as well. I hear you.
The problem is literally every verb is a sexual innuendo. At you said correctly.
Yeah.
So I don't know how because it's not really helpful.
So I think you're saying you value pragmatic stuff or practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's real hard to defeat that because what are they going to do? Talk at me more? I can just turn this off.
The content in Timbism isn't going to replace your car battery, you know what I mean?
Exactly. But it's also boring for that. That's why I just make jokes in the background. Because, I get that it also kills rooms. I'm not trying to do that.
I think it's so weird when Ding Dong talks about, the grounding for intelligibility, and there's no intelligibility in the atheist worldview. Is my truck going to quit working? I don't understand.
If I forget to pray right before I start my truck.
Yeah, what's the problem here?
2 + 2, and then there's a parenthesis, plus God, unparentheses equals, I forgot the first number, it's way too high to make that joke, but you see what I'm saying, right? It's stupid. There's an implied and God to everything. Every stupid little thing. Your physics equation, and then at the very end, parentheses, plus God, equals whatever the fucking outcome should be. Fuck. Equals God first, right before the equals, MC, whatever, fuck.
If every mod denied I was removed from the room, should I just go ahead and assume it's the one that hates me, and he's lying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Did you guys kick Matt Adams?
No, I
No,
got
he's at work.
Donald's room.
Yeah, he's working.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, Haiti got kicked out of Donald's room, which is fucking weird because that room is romper.
Did you call him Donnie?
No one's admitting it, which is why I think it's the one who's lying is the one who hates me. Anywho,
Interesting.
yeah. So,
God, it's cold out here. Holy shit.
Yeah, it got cold quick.
Ooh, Nathan Orman started following me on Twitter.
who's he?
Or he's like a... I don't know how to describe it.
I don't like him.
He's like
He's boring.
into philosophy. Sort of is.
He came into our room once and like sat around for a few days. That guy, Haiti.
He's probably better than most.
Nathan. Is he a Christian?
He's like a low tier YouTuber.
No, he's an atheist. He used to make videos like just bashing Canadian Catholic. It's pretty funny.
That's basic.
Nathan.
Rad is claiming he didn't kick you, so there's one mod.
Oh, I'm like 78% certain I know who it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's Rab. I wasn't even
Oh, Rob loves
bring
me.
it up as Rab.
No, I think it's Steve, the
I think it was Steve.
philosophist. We had a long history of hating each other. It goes back months, so I believe it was.
That Donald guy, he gets wound up about the dumbest.
Betrayer kept calling him Donnie the other night. I was just like,
That was funny. I love Jack egging him on.
I mean,
He's like,
if you're sensitive about your name, don't put your name out. Like, how hard is that? Gee. Like, wow.
I love it when
don't call me Donnie, I'm sensitive about it.
when the
Just
guy
is that-
trolls, no one's really sure because he's usually like quite serious, but then he does that, and it's just like you fucking troll.
But yeah, he doesn't, like, make any cogent points. Or what he says is just no duh, and who gives a fuck? Like, yeah.
Who, Donnie?
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
He's not wrong about anything necessarily, but he's also really wrong about some really weird shit.
Yeah.
he thinks his expertise in one goes to.
Rob, do you want to explain to me why you kicked me from the room? I'm waiting.
Sorry, what's that?
I said, would you like to tell me why you kicked me?
I did not kick you. That would have been a good idea, but no, I did not kick you. It wouldn't have been a good idea either. I wouldn't.
I said no one fessed up.
Not that I know.
Boo.
Yeah.
Cowards.
Fucking coward. That room is wild. And now Steve's like his I don't know, what you call it, his goon, his strong man, his enforcer. Yeah. That's what he's doing. To the extent that he'll just talk over and be like, what Donald means is, and Donald's going, oh, I can talk.
Steve is working on turning Donald into a sock puppet for him. This is what Donald would say now. I gotta get to my business classes, but love you guys. And I gotta go do stuff. Damn it. Alright. Off to work. Yeah.
So what went on yesterday while I was out doing not this?
So I'm gonna be a bit delayed because I'm in the kitchen. And I have to leave
As
my
it
phone
should be.
somewhere else. So I have to leave my phone somewhere else. I have to like walk from kitchen to the place to unmute, to answer you. John Lee got folded multiple times. Matt Adam rage quit because Danny, yeah, I see you, Matt Adams. Danny headshotted him. And then,
Like when he headshotted him, did Matt Adams just start like talking incessantly?
well, get this. He basically was just like, I'm done with this conversation. And then Jack kind of took the baton from Danny. And then Matt started talking incessantly and wouldn't let Jack
Wow,
speak.
I called it.
And
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
move.
yeah, yeah.
I can
That's
read
the
him.
move. That's the move. The Matt Adams move. And then he rage quit. Or maybe I kicked him. But either way, he just wasn't going to let Jack get like his thing out. He just was like talking as he was talking. So that was kind of funny.
Matt Adams, how does it feel to be a baseball? 'Cause I can literally like point to the stands and know exactly what you're gonna do. So my watch came yesterday, Haiti. It's light. I give it that.
Well, obviously, as an Apple Watch wearer myself for many years, I understand how you feel.
Well, I looked at it in comparison to my friends,
Mm-hmm.
and my friend's watch looked like the size of a nickel.
Oh,
So if this one didn't come out, I would have never gotten one.
Yeah.
You're cutting out. You should.
Because it's too small? You didn't like how small they were before?
so this one's bigger?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
disgustingly small.
Yeah, there's two size. Like, I got a larger size the last time. And then I've got two. I've got a smaller one and I've got the larger one. Not this brand new one. I didn't see any reason to upgrade for this one.
This one's the same size as my Garmin. It's 49 millimeters, so it's good.
I had noticed some issues with my Apple account in the last few days where it looked like someone was trying to enter it using a device I didn't own got added to my account the other day. So just some craziness going on. So just spreading that, make sure your 2-factor's on and keep track of that shit. Just so to be clear, I could be an anomaly though because I get targeted sometimes depending on what industry I'm in.
I think I went through and removed every other device.
Yeah, it was a super old Apple Watch that I never owned. Got added to my account. So I'm guessing since they didn't have to do the 2-factor to add it, that it got some kind of hole in their security now.
Delano, can you hear me?
Yes, but I don't hear anything frying, so there's a problem.
I'm just making coffee.
What kind of
Yeah, I said, Pete's
drip?
in my, of course, drip in my
Oh
Cuisinart, which has an extra hot setting, which means it's always like piping hot. Because a lot of the times that just coffee gets cold, which is terrible.
You're
Anyway,
supposed
so
to
that's
drink it, Haiti, so it doesn't get cold.
No, I mean in the pot, like it sits there and it doesn't stay piping hot.
I had a Cuisinart
Ouch.
cup machine in like 2008.
Mhm.
It was okay.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
don't ever
I
let my
actually-
coffee sit there like a grandma.
Okay.
You know.
Hey, Daddy. That little shit called me middle-aged.
Oh, fuck.
Right? It's really rude. Anyway, lost my thread. Yeah, so guess what Matt did after he suicided out of my room?
Created a room.
You were on fire
I'm
today.
telling you, I know him.
Yeah, they had a lovely little spite room. The usual goon squad of Matt, Johnny, and James. I think it was called something like Matt teaches atheists, but they don't care to learn, which is freaking hilarious. It's just, I mean, it was fun following Jen yesterday because it's on this justified true belief thing, right? Which is
Mhm.
so incredibly incoherent about. I've just heard it all before, you know, like I know all his positions. I could probably be, you know, LARP as him. It's getting boring.
Yeah, it's weird we can't get anybody else. What happened? What
Yeah.
happened to Ask a Christian? Do they just not do rooms anymore?
Yeah. Like, you know, they won't, like, play the game, you know. They won't debate, they won't really defend the stuff. Yeah. I think it's just like Goon Squad or the Precepts, which is just, they're both pretty bad choices. I mean, although I think Precept is garbage, I'm starting to think it is like slightly more challenging than like look at the trees.
Well, is there a challenge about asking people to give an argument? You just hand wave everything they say.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I just don't understand why people talk to people like Joe Robin or Darth or whoever. I don't get it. Well, I guess I understand the psychology, but it doesn't make sense to me.
It could just be like less fierce. Either find other things to debate or just like hang out and talk about stuff. Like I wouldn't mind that.
It would be different if they acknowledged their mishaps, but they just remain incredulous. It's just stupid. It's like a room full of Matt Adamses, like G.I. Jew and fucking PMARS.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the honest thing would be to be like, obviously there are no arguments. It's just what I believe. It makes me happy. I don't know if it's true or not. Like that's the honest thing to say. But they'd never say that in a million years.
Where's John Lee? I don't even see him in our room. He can't be asleep. Josh Bowen, you should come up. Haiti has a huge crush on you.
Intellectual.
He can't talk right now.
Josh, Dr. Byrne, you got to put out sometime, you know. You can't keep getting...
You're blue balling her, bro.
Yeah, right? Come on, man. There's a lot of first date.
Somebody say something controversial. It's like 7:20 a.m. and I'm bored.
Okay, everything that happened in the Bible is literally true. That's it. I'm trying to, you know, try and ensnare Dr. Bowen to come out.
Oh,
No, it's not. It's all literally true. Flood, Exodus, talking donkey, it's all true. Completely true. Prove me wrong, someone. If only someone could. If only there was someone here.
Someone with a PhD.
Oh, well, I tried.
You atheists are boring, you know, sometimes. Normally quite toxic. Here's Dar.
Why should we continue to believe them?
So you would say they're actively aware that God exists?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just really.
Scripture said they are without an excuse. The word there is apologia, without a defense. They are without a defense.
Oh, is that Skylar fiction?
Isn't it that clear to you?
Alright, that's interesting.
Yes, that they're without defense. Yes, yes.
They have no defense when they advocate for an alternative worldview. And here's why. It's really simple, okay? As Christians, we recognize that God is defined characteristically as the ground of all being. I'm sure you would agree with that, right?
Oh, it's changed his
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
The ground of all being, God is characterized as ultimate and absolute. Absolute meaning unconditionally non-dependent and non-derivative, and immutable in terms of his essential properties, right? We add the word ultimate to expand on God being the absolute, which means that all things that are not God derive and depend upon him, and he's perfect, okay? But let's just focus on God being characteristically absolute, okay?
Perfect by what standard, Darth?
Okay. By what standard?
Yeah.
By God revealing himself.
That's not a standard.
Can you support that claim?
Yeah, because you're just saying it's revealing something isn't a standard by definition.
Okay. When you...
I'm sorry, it's not a standard.
Please don't
What's the standard by which you measure
I don't want to have to kick you as I have in the past.
you're gonna, Darth. So don't just do it if you're going to do it.
I don't want to have to kick you again for the umpteenth time. Okay?
I mean, I don't need your threats, so you can do what you want to do. Talk to me.
Okay, I will ask you again to not overspeak me while I'm speaking.
I didn't. I wait till you're done talking, then I
Now,
speak.
when you assert things, okay, whatever claims that you make, just like the ones that you have just made in response to my assertions, are your claims metaphysically grounded
Oh, Jesus
and
Christ.
rooted in the mind and
No, I'm asking you what the standard was. You didn't give it to me. You didn't answer my question.
If you're going to be belligerent with me, I will remove you from the room. Okay, I warn you.
Here, I'm just asking, what is the standard of person?
Now
You
I
didn't give it
asked
to me.
a question. You made a counter into me. Okay?
No, I asked you what the standard of person was. You didn't give it to
This
me.
happens the same way every time. I will tell you again. I do not want to have to kick you, but I can see it coming. This hurricane coming. Please do not speak while I'm talking.
I just wanted to say, it's good to see you, Skylar. I really hope you guys can have a good conversation because I think it could
No, Skylar is probably, as I've said this before,
See, here it goes.
the second most obnoxious person I've
Yep, there
ever
we go. Personal attack.
seen on the internet. Okay?
He doesn't want to have a conversation with me. He wants to personally attack me, and he doesn't want to answer my questions. This is already happening.
Okay, so you made a counter assertion to my assertion. So my question to you is, when you make the counter assertion, whenever you do make any assertion,
I didn't make an assertion.
Okay, please don't overtalk me. There's only so many more chances I'm going to give you.
I don't want to be monologued. Darth, can you just talk to me like a human being?
All right. Okay. Okay. He also has a new account. The previous account I had of his was blocked. Okay. Now, did you see right there? Do you see what a complete asshole that guy was,
Skylar Fiction. All right.
Andrew?
Yeah. Well, I'm I don't know. I am a little tired, Darth. I'm gonna have to read this.
You don't know?
Isn't it?
I think you guys have a history.
Okay, hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
How undiscerning are you by choice?
Well, I'm pretty discerning of words.
Listen, other Christians who know Skylar Fiction, you can ask
I know.
them.
Yeah.
That the guy is a complete unhinged asshole.
He is at times, for sure. I totally have seen
Now, because of his repeated vicious attacks on me, I can't tell you how many second chances that I've given him. And immediately he goes from 0 to 60. Rude, obnoxious, over-talking, being belligerent. And after numerous warnings, Skylar, please stop. Please don't do that, Skylar. I'm going to kick Skylar. Please stop. Skylar, please stop over. Skylar, please stop over-talking. Okay? He continues to do it. Okay? You saw it on full display here. He showed no self-control with his mouth, did he? Did I not warn him multiple times, if you persist in interrupting and over-talking me, I'm going to kick you? After multiple warnings, did he continue to purposely be in my face and be interruptive and over-talking?
He definitely came in heated, for sure.
Okay, so what is this little game like? Just I wish you had been more patient with him.
Actually, I'm not pressing that. I'm not pressing that because I don't know. I'm still trying to, depending on the take on Romans 1, I mean, if it's true that they're all liars, then I'm actually would be more open to being more confrontational.
They're all liars. Listen, when I say they're all liars, we're talking about what Romans 1 says. That doesn't mean that every sentence out of their mouth is a lie.
No, I got you on that.
What we're saying is the root attitude and general outlook is a lie because it is a purposely chosen suppression of the truth and unrighteousness. And Romans 1 says they are without a defense. They have no defense.
Yeah, Andrew, how do you make sense of these people doing this day in and day out if they're not suppressing the truth of the God they know?
Yeah,
I mean, how does that even make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, and that actually does carry a lot of weight in my mind for sure. There's
That's
something going
pure
on.
cognitive dissonance. And
Right.
in the same way
Yeah.
that if someone did this in the context of, the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus, you'd put them in a nut house. You'd be like, well, you think these people are fictional, but you spend every day, all day, arguing against these characters. It's crazy. So when they put God in the same category, it absolutely does not make any sense if they are not suppressing that truth, and this is how they do it. They come up here with their rhetoric and their garbage arguments, trying to do anything they can to suppress the truth all day, every day.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. No, for sure. I heard Matt Dillahunty, because I wanted to see what some of the more vocal atheists would say about that kind of question. Like, hey, what is your motivation? Why do you spend your whole life doing this? And I think Tom Jump and both Matt Dillahunty, I think their answer, how they worked it out is, well, Christians vote, and you guys make, you have influence.
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt here. This is such a ludicrous, lame excuse.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's what they say.
Well, other than abortion, what other issues are they really being impacted upon?
Maybe like gay rights and trans rights.
Really?
Yeah, that's just a red herring. But Andrew, are we motivated? Are we motivated to do what we do?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's their motivation?
To fight what we do because they don't like it. They don't want the change.
Sense.
What's that?
That doesn't make sense. Maybe I don't like the idea that a tooth fairy puts money under a pillow.
No, I get you. Ultimately, right. I get you on what's the grounding of why they even care about those issues to begin with? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we are motivated. We are motivated.
I reached a point a number of years ago that I've decided I will no longer talk with flat earthers. Point blank, I will not talk with them.
I'd love to hear you talk to a flat earther, actually, Darth. I think
because I've come to the conclusion that 3/4 of them, if not 4/5 of them, are just simply trolls. They're just doing to yank people's chain. There are people that are mentally warped out there by choice who get, almost orgasmic delight out of, pulling people's chains, and just bullshitting them, right? And I think that maybe the remaining fraction is that these people are just nuts. So regardless of which camp that they're in, within the, cut up pie, why should I waste my time talking with these nut jobs? And so I don't. If atheists think that our beliefs are completely and utterly non-intellectual and are the equivalent of believing in a cosmic Barney the dinosaur, as John and Redefine were saying, why would they bother even talking? Which is that they're nuts.
Yeah, and I think part of it could be, you might say that they're afraid that it is true. And so they're trying to convince themselves more thoroughly, that it's not true. And so that's one way I've kind of cashed that out.
Okay, look, let me explain it to you. Romans 1, why there with that excuse. It's really not complicated. When you open up your eyes every day and you look around, you believe that there are things that are real before you, and that you have some appropriation of what things are and their intelligibility. None of that would be meaningful whatsoever if it was not the case that God existed. Okay? And here's why. In order for things to have identity, and identity over time, they're either going to have to be absolute within themselves, or derivative of that which is the absolute. Okay? Let me repeat that again. In order for something to possess identity, and identity over time, it must either be absolute within itself, unconditionally non-dependent and derivative, and hence eternal, or it derives from that which is absolute and eternal. Okay? Now, that's not a very complicated metaphysical landscape there. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, I think, yeah. I think.
Now, those facts in question, the fingernails on your hand, the grass blowing in the wind, whatever it is, because they will recognize that how many atheists will say that these things don't possess identity? Okay? That the grass is not the grass. So the grass, or whatever fact in question you're talking about, will either be indicative and hence revelatory of God or not. It's a dichotomous situation. Either the grass blowing in the wind and the twinkling stars at night, okay, us breathing air, whatever, either these facts are indicative of and revelatory of God or not. Now, they will be indicative and revelatory of God if and only if God purposes it. So you cannot disjoin or have a disjunct between a fact indicating God and a God purposing that it indicates and reveals him. Okay, so I'm giving further clarification of the dichotomy, right? Either everything in this world reveals God by his purpose or not. They know the dichotomy, right? So they opt for one pole of the dichotomy rather than the other. Now, if these things are indicative of God as the absolute, as the creator, the supreme being, then they are what they are because they derive from the mind of God. Okay? The grass is the grass because of the mind of God. But if that is rejected, then the grass is not indicative and revelatory of anything. Now, they'll go, well, that's nonsense. It's indicative of the laws of nature. What laws of nature? What makes that real? Okay?
Yeah.
So, as Van Til put it, he would sum up his sophisticated theology and philosophy into simple aphorisms. It's either Christ, meaning Jesus Christ is the second person of the Trinity and Lord and Savior, or chaos. Christ or chaos. Chaos meaning there is nothing that is identifiably absolute. In order to invoke that something is the absolute, you have to have grounds to assert it. What are you going to sit there and say, well, these things have identity? Well, so you say. Right?
Yeah.
They want to say, I want you to prove to me God exists. Good. I want you to prove to me that there's something that is absolute, that's really there, that is the source and basis of why anything is, can be, or cannot be. I want you to prove that to me. So what is the absolute? And they got nothing. And they go, reality, energy. They are left, when they reject that God is and that he's revealed himself through creation, all they're left with is just making up stuff in a grand universal statement or declaration for which they cannot account for based upon their own criterion.
Would you, Darth, and possibly redefine, if maybe even later today or at some point, if I open up a Romans 1 room, would you guys be willing to do a little study on that?
If I'm not busy at that time, I'll be glad to join. I'm not going to make you a promise that I'll definitely be there.
No, I got you. I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that for sure. Yeah, I was talking to he's actually he's an SDA, but he's pretty sharp. But he was, we were talking about Romans 1, and that's why I'm kind of more up in the air, because he brought out some points, and I can't recall even what he said. I have it on a replay, but it was interesting.
Example of what I'm talking about. Come on up, strong atheist. Strong atheist, do you still hold to the notion that the stipulation of the first law of thermodynamics necessarily indicates the eternality of matter and energy?
I will go with it, except take out the word
necessity.
You still maintain that the first law of thermodynamics necessarily indicates, the way it is worded in scientific literature, that it necessarily indicates that matter and energy is eternal.
Again, I'll take out the word necessary.
No, I didn't ask you to give me qualification. Please answer the question the way it is formulated. I didn't ask you to answer a question formulated differently than the way I asked you.
Oh, I answered it.
Did you notice how, Andrew, he wants to change the formulation of my question in order to evade answering the question? Do you see?
I'll still lean towards yes then. If you want to insist on an answer, I'll go with yes.
Okay, so did you hear that answer, Andrew?
I did hear the answer, yes.
This is a mind purposely set on self-deception. He and I have had multiple dozens of conversations about what the first law of thermodynamics says in its precise wording at various scientific locations, and how and what it means and applies on a grand scope of things.
Yeah. Well, might I ask him, strong atheist, what motivates you to debate God? Like, why do you even interact with atheists?
Before we get there, I don't want to finish what I'm saying about the first law of thermodynamics.
Okay, I'm sorry, Doc. Go ahead.
He is committed to an extrapolation that is not justified by the inception and the formalization of the first law of thermodynamics as it is found in textbooks and scientific representations across the internet. When I asked him to produce that there's any reputable scientific textbook or representation of this first law of thermodynamics from any type of reputable scientific source, okay? Even Wikipedia, all he could pull up was some guy who uses a screen name who claims he's a physicist when he only claims he has a BA from some posting on Reddit. Now, is there any reputable source that you want to cite on the interweb or scientific textbook that says that the way the first law of thermodynamics is stated, that it necessarily entails that matter and energy are eternal? Is there any such source?
I couldn't find any. Can you cite any source that says it's not the case?
Yeah, that's a childish response, and I will tell you why. Right? Because when you actually study the first law of thermodynamics, if you were more well studied in it, you wouldn't make such a childish response. Because it's simply stipulating, it's called the conservation of matter and energy, which is specific to a system. Okay? That within the system, the amount of matter and energy remains the same, although it may change form. This is not a stipulation of anything more or less. Okay? So why would it have to contain a denial of a ridiculous extrapolation that isn't warranted by the wording, the articulation of the first law of thermodynamics?
So in other words, you can't.
No, that's like saying I can't find any textbook on astronomy that goes out of its way to explain to me that the moon is not made out of green cheese.
All right, so you're making your assertion. I'm making my assertion.
I'm not making any more assertion about the first law of thermodynamics than what's plain there in the text. What you are doing is you are stepping outside the bounds of what is clearly articulated and that it is specific to a system, and you are going outside of it because you're using a less than scientific extrapolation. And I'm just simply going by the plain statement that it's just simply limited to a system, right?
Okay, let's take it from there, though. Suppose that's the case, and I have seen that closed system part before. Suppose it's an open system. How does that still make?
So if you're in an open system, you've just shot yourself in the head philosophically.
I understand your position on that, but I'm saying no.
It's not just my
matter.
Did you understand that if you take any course in the philosophy of science, what they will tell you is science doesn't make truth declarations, because any truth declaration that somebody might do, okay, first of all, they're provisional in nature, okay, and they're subject to revision, change, based upon, re-examination of the data, or complete refutation based upon some observation tomorrow. Now, do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Okay, so science is not in the business of making truth declarations. They're all conclusions in science are provisional, and that the observations that are made and spoken in terms of provisional conclusions are inherently theory-laden. Okay? All observations in science are inherently theory-laden. Okay? Now, bottom line is this. Bottom line is, I'm going to ask you a question. Can we have a scenario where God is what is fundamental to everything, right? And he has the attributes and the properties to speak into existence matter and energy, where he brings matter and energy into existence and he sustains it, whereupon within our uniform experience, we don't know of any natural or man-made way of destroying or creating energy. Is that a irrational scenario?
If you put the word hypothetical scenario in there, then okay.
Right. Okay. Well, then you see, then the first law of thermodynamics is completely compatible with the temporal becoming of creation and of matter and energy. So the first law of thermodynamics would be congruent with creationism. But you're saying that the first law of thermodynamics is incongruent with creation.
Well, if you're saying, though, God created everything, then it seems to go against the first law of thermodynamics?
No, again, how many times have we gone over this? This is what is so frustrating to deal with you, okay? How many times?
Ex nihilo, then?
How many times have we gone over this again?
Is it
The
ex nihilo?
stipulation about matter and energy is from our perspective.
Okay, is your understanding
Listen to me, okay? You, because of other theoretical concepts that you hold to, do not believe in the perpetuity of the Earth rotating on its axis, infinite into the past. Let me repeat that again. Because of certain theoretical constructs that you hold to, your a priori commitments, you do not hold to a past infinite for the Earth rotating on its axis, right?
Correct.
Okay. But you see, has there anybody who's ever lived or is alive today who has a posteriori grounds that there was a time when the Earth didn't rotate on its axis?
So obviously not. People didn't exist.
Oh, okay.
It's done mathematically.
What we experience, okay, what we experience, right? What the regularities that we experience doesn't follow from that they are follow in a past infinite. Okay?
Okay.
When you see, you haven't studied the laws of thermodynamics. Even at a minimalistic level, you wouldn't make such a simple blunder, and you're motivated by justifying your atheism. The first law of thermodynamics, I'll tell you again, and I'm getting sick of telling you, is not a declaration, even implicitly, of the eternality of matter and energy.
Can I ask a question real quick, please?
Yeah.
Suppose we have the open system, okay? The energy / matter is either entering or leaving the system. It is still not being created or destroyed. It's just being transferred.
You're not understanding. In creationism, we'll go over this again. In creationism, is there an intrinsic inconsistency between a world where creationism is true and the first law of thermodynamics?
If you believe in creation ex nihilo, there would be.
That's what creationism is, sir.
Well, I've heard different takes on it, but okay.
No, sir. Then it's not creationism.
Okay.
Now,
Well, some say that God created.
listen. Wow, why do you have to overcomplicate stuff? All right, listen carefully. Is the first law of thermodynamics the way it is stipulated, not the way you extrapolate it? The way it is stipulated is completely incompatible with creationism.
Yes.
How so?
If you're creating something from nothing, that goes entirely against...
No, sir, you're not understanding. Do you understand that the first and second law of thermodynamics is per a system?
I just spoke with you about the open system scenario, that it's
No,
still...
sir, we're talking about... Listen. The first law of thermodynamics, is it a stipulation as to the eternality of matter and energy?
I believe that's to be the case.
No, it is not. It is not. It simply, why do you think it's called the conservation of matter and energy?
It's because it's always there.
No, it doesn't mean. Oh, you mean past infinite?
Well, that's my take on it. I know it's
no.
not.
See, there you go. There you go. Because that's not what the first law of thermodynamics is stating. It is not stating the past infinite succession of matter and energy.
It doesn't say can't be created or destroyed.
Listen carefully. You know what? This is why you are, and Andrew left. And it's too bad that he left, because he could just sit there listening to you lie through your teeth. Okay?
Did not lie once.
Yeah, you are lying, because I've educated you over and over and over again on this, and yet you persist on this lie that the first law of thermodynamics is stipulative as to the eternality of matter and energy, yet it nowhere says that. There's a difference between saying, okay, look, in creationism, where God is past eternal, okay, he brings matter into existence, okay? He brings it into existence, and it can neither be created or destroyed by any natural or man-made means, because that is what he has created.
So say natural or...
Listen carefully, because I'm really getting frustrated with you in your usual denial. Now, the idea that matter and energy is conserved, that is, the amount of it remains the same in our uniform experience, and that we don't know of any man-made way or natural way by which matter and energy can be created or destroyed, but matter simply conserved, is entirely compatible with a creationist view.
So when you speak of things being created ex nihilo, how does that not go against the first law? I don't get that part.
Because the first law is not a stipulation of the past infinitude of matter and energy. When it says it cannot be created or destroyed, it means because of the system, okay, it can't be created by a natural or man-made process, but it can be created by God.
So it doesn't say any of that in the first law of thermodynamics.
That's because the first law of thermodynamics is an invocation based upon methodological naturalism. Do you know what methodological naturalism is?
I know what naturalism is. Method, I guess. The method.
Methodological naturalism is we will only look for natural explanations of phenomena.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. But you see, that's not science.
That is actually science.
No. That is a bias that many scientists follow, but it's not science itself.
Okay, I'll respectfully disagree on that. If
many scientists had a bias that was toward racism, okay, and it was prevalent, okay, it wouldn't make it science. It would just simply be a bias within science. Now, when we say matter and energy can be created or destroyed, this is a statement about present conditions. It is not a statement about past or future eternal state. It's not say that. It's not a statement of past or future infinitude. You understand?
Okay, I understand that's your position
You
on that.
disagree. Show me some reputable scientific site that says that.
I showed you just one. That was all I could come up with.
That wasn't a scientific
like that one.
That wasn't a scientific. It was a posting on Reddit by some guy who claimed he was a physicist, and at the same time he only claimed he had a BA.
Okay. In any case, though, when you say God created matter, God created energy, and the first law of thermodynamics says that matter, gas, whatever you want to call it, can't be created or destroyed. How is that compatible?
Well, I can't believe that you're just so willfully stupid about this issue. It's entirely compatible, okay? Because what we have is the creating and the sustaining of matter and energy for a period of time, okay, that we human beings experience. So the first law of thermodynamics, okay, one more time. The first law of thermodynamics is specific to a system. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, now, we can have a system that either includes or excludes God. Okay?
Okay.
Now, the first law of thermodynamics is not a defeater for the existence of God being the eternal source. Show me one scientific paper that says that.
You just keep using the term, though, God created.
Wait. Okay. Why do you persist in doing this? I'm really beginning to think that you're mentally ill.
Okay, that's.
I'm really sincere about this.
Well, I mean,
really beginning to believe you're mentally ill because you're in such deception. The first law of thermodynamics is just simply giving a generalization. Do you know what induction is?
Yes.
Okay. A generalization, induction in science is that we have certain experiences that are uniform and we don't have any notable exceptions.
Right.
Okay. So the first and second law of thermodynamics is as per a system within our uniform experience. Now, this statement doesn't apply outside of our uniform experience.
Okay.
Okay?
So does your statements don't have to do with our experience? We did not see God create anything whatsoever.
Listen to me. How many times do I have to explain this to you? I'm trying to get through to you, and this is difficult when you are so self-deceived. Okay? When I ask you, show me any scientific paper, textbook, or reputable scientific site that state that the first and second law of thermodynamics is an intended stipulation as to the past infinitude of matter and energy, you can't provide me with one. Not one. And yet, when you get trounced in the discussion, because that's not what the first law of thermodynamics is, what you are doing is you are extrapolating on a bastardization of the wording, saying, well, if it can't be created or destroyed, it means, therefore, that it has always existed. No, it doesn't mean that. The fact that we can't create or destroy matter and energy, or that we don't know of any natural means by which matter and energy can be created or destroyed, does not entail a past infinitude for matter and energy.
Okay, I mean, you're saying
listen, in a creationist worldview, is the first law of thermodynamics compatible with a creationist worldview?
Not ex nihilo.
Okay, get the hell out of here. You're such a moron. Yeah. This is what I mean about pathological lying. I mean, this is how craven they are. This guy's like in his 40s, if not 50s, and he lies and he reasons like a teenager.
Well, you would have an equilibrium problem if he wants to say that these things are eternal.
He doesn't care.
And he would have reached equilibrium, and nobody says that cosmos are eternal anyway. So now he's just violating.
He doesn't care. Don't you understand?
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's a type of contradiction, because on one hand he wants to affirm these scientific consensus for one thing, but then he's going to abandon it and try to say something silly like these things are eternal. Which is it? It's inconsistent. It might not be a contradiction, but it's inconsistent.
Yeah. I'm trying to explain to him, saying that matter and energy can't be created or destroyed can mean more than one thing. It could mean, as he takes it, the past and future infinitude of matter and energy. Okay? Hypothetically, it could mean that. But there is nobody in the scientific community that writes in terms of, scientific sites or textbooks that intends that the stipulation of the first law of thermodynamics entails that neither being created or destroyed entails past or future infinitude. He is taking like a 13-year-old mentality and saying, well, since it can't be created, therefore it couldn't be created by God. It couldn't, No, what we're talking about, it can't be created in anything in our uniform experience in terms of natural or man-made techniques or practices. It is not a universal declaration of past infinitude. Okay? Imagine that a child couldn't create the Eiffel Tower, and a child couldn't destroy the Eiffel Tower. Does that mean that the Eiffel Tower has an infinitude? Okay? Yeah, he has been schooled on this so many times. I have no longer any doubt that he is a conniving little, deceiving little teenager trapped in a little man's body. I tried to explain to him the first law of thermodynamics is per a system. That system could be that of creationism or non-creationism. The first law of thermodynamics is perfectly compatible with creationism. But he wants to say no because he is extrapolating on the wording to mean that the wording entails a past infinitude, which it does not. And he by the way, he knows what I'm saying is spot on correct. He knows it. But he I don't know why he's trying to save face, because he's not saving face. He looks like a lying horse's ass when he persists in this. Not even Lawrence Krauss will make such a statement. Now, I just brought him up here so that Andrew could see this lying atheist who will lie, right?
But there's another glaring problem that they want to avoid is when you have all of this matter in the form of energy, or however that might be. But if you don't have something that harnesses or orders this energy, then it's completely destructive. So what would that be?
Go on, Sean.
And can I charge my cell phone with a lightning zap?
I mean, I could just give a simple example by saying, well, you know what? The planets that we have observed are neither created nor destroyed. Right? Nobody's ever observed a planet forming. Okay? We haven't even observed stars forming, although they claim they have. You see, the difference is people who are poorly educated in the philosophy of science cannot differentiate what is an actual observation and an extrapolation from an observation, where the extrapolation is being presented as though it were the observation. So, I mean, it would be equal dumbassery for somebody to say, well, planets can neither be created or destroyed, because we don't observe them being created or destroyed. I really need to stop talking with him, because he's worse. His mental gymnastics are worse than a lying teenager. That's how he's worse than that. That's how bad he is. And I don't say that because he's just simply disagreeing. I've gone through this over and over and over and over ad nauseum with him. Okay, that the stipulation matter and energy is neither created or destroyed is as per our uniform experience. It is not a stipulation of past infinitude. But he doesn't care, because he wants to make this universe. He's trying to find a universal that he can use in order to negate God, because he's an atheist. So he wants to say that energy itself is eternal, and if energy itself is eternal, this vitiates or nullifies the existence of God. Okay, which he would be correct. God is defined as the ground of all being. If energy were eternal, then God could not exist. Okay?
Are the laws of thermodynamics universal?
He thinks that he will say that that since they're eternal, he will say since the first law of thermodynamics is eternal, therefore it would be a universal declaration. He would have to concede to that.
Yeah, but he's going to need to defend that. How's that going to happen?
He doesn't understand even the basic problem of induction. Okay? Or he refuses to understand it. Look, the patent office, in the United States Patent Office, will not accept any new patents for perpetual motion machines. Okay? However, if somebody were to come up with such an invention, okay, and it were to be demonstrated, okay, without any trickery at all, then they would have to change their policy. And the reason why they won't accept it is because of not only so many past failures, but because it's inconsistent with the first and second law of thermodynamics. More specifically, the second law of thermodynamics. That in a closed system, right, unless you have an influx of new energy, everything overall will move from order to disorder overall. All right? That's why they don't accept patents for perpetual motion machines.
Yeah, I've heard people say that there can be reversals, and maybe they can, but the reversal would be like, you know, a river running down a hill, and it will hit a little, some water might hit a rock and kind of splash back, go the opposite way, but ultimately everything's, tending to disorder. You heard him say that?
Yeah, you can. The second the second law of thermodynamics does not mean that there cannot be new pockets of order developing. It just means the total amount of order is decreasing.
Right.
Okay. But I mean, it's got to be just full-blown deceit and dishonesty when I explain to him that the first law of thermodynamics is not stipulative of a past infinitude. It is simply a generalization based upon our uniform understanding until and if we observe an exception to it. Okay? It's within a system. Okay? So the first law of thermodynamics is not incompatible with creationism, where matter and energy can't. When we say it can't be created or destroyed, it's not a blank. Under no circumstances or any metaphysical construct can it be created or destroyed. That's not what it means. Okay. It means when they say it can't be created or destroyed, they're talking about in our uniform experience. It means that there is no known natural process or man-made activity that can either bring matter and energy into existence or bring it out of existence, although it changes form. I've explained this to him over and over and over again, and he refuses because he's desperate. He has nothing else that he can use as a universal declaration to use as a negator for God. James, come on up.
No, I just wanted to say I'm astounded that we're having this conversation again with atheists.
Can you get closer to your microphone, please?
Yeah, am I able to be heard?
Yeah, but it's just weak.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in my car. I'm just saying I'm astounded we're having the conversation again with atheists about the first law.
Yeah, let me just fix my audio quality.
I'm in the car, so it might be.
Yeah, that's better. I fixed the audio quality. It's better. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the car, so it might be on my end as well.
It's because we are dealing with trans-teenagerism. Have you ever heard of this mental disorder?
No.
Trans-teenagerism are teenagers who are trapped in adult bodies.
Right.
And they bicker and they debate, regardless of their IQ or academic achievement. And there are some people who have PhDs who suffer from trans-teenagerism.
She's crazy.
Where they have the debate mentality of a snot-nosed ADD teenager who is defiant. Okay.
If we were at the university level, though, and you were their professor, you would be like, okay, you need to go, like, do fundamental physics or something because you're just not getting it. It's a way that the question keeps coming up.
I don't know how much you listen to it, but this is about the fourth dozen conversation I've had with him on this subject. And when I point out to him, there is not any reputable scientific source, either on the internet or in textbooks, that I'm aware of, that he can appeal to, that stipulate that the first law of thermodynamics necessarily entails a past infinitude. right? And I point this out to him. I point out to him the nature and scope of the first law of thermodynamics as it is stipulated, that it is as per our induction and uniform experience and is not entailing a past infinitude or a future infinitude. And his response is to say, well, the first law of thermodynamics does not stipulate what you're saying. And the answer is, yes, it does. It's only talking about our inductive survey. That's all.
Maybe if they heard it from an atheist physicist, maybe that would convince them. Because maybe they think you're biased or something. Which, I mean, we're all biased in our own way, but...
No, but James, I pointed out to him, I said, provide me one reputable scientific, even paper.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Okay, and this is about this, I've done this at least, literally a dozen times.
That's why I'm amazed you keep bringing him up expecting a different result with
Well, I brought him up to show Andrew an example of somebody who is pathologically committed to the suppression of the truth and unrighteousness as Exhibit A. Okay, that he keeps on beating this horse that the first law of thermodynamics is a generalization from induction that can be used to mitigate against the existence of God, and it can't. I explained to him the first law of thermodynamics is entirely consistent with creationism. It's not incompatible, and but you see, he like a depraved little ADD child, right? He's committed to the notion that he has been completely corrected upon over and over again. That he's committed to that the first law of thermodynamics necessarily entails a stipulation of past infinitude when it is not. He's simply capitalizing that on the fact that the first law of thermodynamics does not contain explicit language saying this is not a statement of past infinitude. Okay? Why would we need to have explicit statements like that? I mean, do you know what you would have to do for everything? No, it's just the guy is warped. He's a exhibit A of deceitful atheists. Okay.
By the way, did you hear? I'm digressing here, but did you see Tom Rabbit's video of John Lee and Donald?
John Lee
has.
Hold on. John Lee versus who?
Donald.
Donald who?
I don't know his name. Donald C. I think he
Donald C. I've tangled with him several dozen times. He suffers from trans teenagerism. The guy is unhinged and is a kook.
Well, he was screaming so much he made his wife cry, and then he blames John Lee for it because he's like, "You made me scream, and you made my wife cry."
Donald C. was stone cold drunk the other night.
No, there's something. Yeah, there's something up there. It's not normal.
I've attempted to have an adult interaction with him, and he tells me he's 42. And he told me that because I asked him what his age was. Because I was personally convinced that I was just dealing with a snot-nosed 14-year-old. Right? It's impossible to have an adult interaction with Donald C.
Yeah, he's a little unhinged. He's a little nuts. He's out there. It's great though. It's entertaining, but.
Well, look. When you don't have intellectual ammunition, you just bicker.
Darth, I was going to ask you, I missed some stuff there. I'm sorry, brother. There's a lot going on, but
what did you hear? How much is the conversation between me and Strong Atheist?
I caught the very beginning of it. How did that end? What happened?
It's the same old, okay? He's committed to the lie that the first law of thermodynamics necessarily entails of the past infinitude of matter and energy, when this is nowhere stated anywhere in any scientific representations of the first law.
Did you ask him?
And I explained to him, as in any laws, it's as per our uniform experience. Okay? It's a generalization based upon our inductive survey as per our uniform experience. It is not a stipulation of past infinitude. I keep on explaining it to him. Right? And the reason why he bitterly clings to this notion is because it's the only way he can make a statement of universality that acts as a negator for God. All he's simply doing is he's capitalizing on the semantics. Okay? For example, if I said, neither created or destroyed, what he's doing like a child is he's capitalizing on the words that saying neither created could mean semantically that it has always existed, that it would never was created. But what the first law of thermodynamics is talking about is that there is no, it's referring to within the process of induction. If we're talking about in the first, look, scientific laws are the product of inductive reasoning. They're generalizations based upon our uniform experience. And when we find an exception, it's no longer a law. The law then gets either eradicated or reformulated. So I keep on trying to explain to them that the first law of thermodynamics deals with our uniform experience. It is not a statement of past infinitude. Right? And yet, he keeps on insisting that the phrase neither created means a past infinitude. There's no scientific site that says that.
Last question. Do you view existence as a predicate?
No.
No. Why so?
Well, explain to me why. Even Immanuel Kant regarded that existence is not a predicate.
Right. I think he was disagreeing with Anselm, and I think the explanation given was
existence is not a property.
Right.
Can you show me the property of existence?
So I think I use an example in my head. Now, I haven't decided one way or another. I'm open to interpretation. But if I think of something like, let's say, an apple, and I describe it perfectly in my head, and I see an apple in real life, the only difference there, if I describe it perfectly in my head, all the properties are there, and there is a difference, it seems to me, between the apple in my mind and the apple in existence. Whereas the one in existence I can feel and touch and do this. It seems to me there is a difference there.
Are you talking about Kant's notion of the noumenal and the phenomenal?
I might be hinting at that,
yeah. Now, this is typically what unbelievers do. They want to make existence a predicate.
Why do they want to do that?
Because they're not well studied. Not that I'm an expert myself, but it's lame. It's lame reasoning.
Right.
In fact, it's a form of childish reasoning.
Well, I think to explain reasoning, I would be circular, right? Because I'm using reason to explain reason.
No, I'm not even talking about the issue of circularity. What I'm talking about is, like, are you familiar with T-Jump, that whack job?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, when I ask him, what is the ground of all being? What is it that dictates what is, can be, and cannot be? His response is existence, reality. Now, this is a complete asinine statement. It would be obvious if he just simply said, well, everything is. What if I said, what is it that dictates any particular instance as to what it is, can be, or cannot be? And he said, well, everything is. The asinine nature of such a statement would be obvious, but when you say reality or existence, that kind of hides it in philosophical language. How could you possibly even defend, let alone defend the coherence, that every discrete thing within the set of all real things dictates what each individual thing is? How could you even defend such a statement?
So if I said, maybe I could get your view on this. So if I said something along the lines of God is omniscient, the way I read it is I'm predicating two things there. I'm predicating God is, and then I'm predicating God is omniscient. But the person who says existential, something that exists is not a predicate, or existing is not a predicate, would say just God is not anything really. It doesn't mean, it's not describing God in any way. Would you disagree?
Well, if we say God is extant, we are describing the God's actual as opposed to God's a concept.
If we say God is,
existence is not a predicate. Existence is not a predicate in that it's a property in and of itself.
Gotcha. Okay.
Existence is a generalization about one or more collective properties. That something's real.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let me ask you this question. You see, sometimes if we come up with equivalent statements, we can understand the incoherence of certain statements. Suppose I said to you, the Eiffel Tower is real. Is realness a predicate? Is it a property?
I would say yes.
No, it's not.
Right, but I would say but what I said earlier was.
Listen, if I said to you, the Eiffel Tower is true. Okay.
Okay.
Can you show me in the real, what's the property of truthness? And I don't mean as a conceptual thing. Can you show me trueness and actuality?
So I would look for a proposition. If you said the Eiffel Tower is true, I would say, what about it is true?
No. Can you show me truth? Where do you find that? Do you look through a telescope? Can you see that in a microscope? Is truth somewhere to be seen in the national parks? Is it somewhere in Australia?
Truth itself as a concept, I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
But as a Christian, I would say Christ is truth.
Right, okay, but what is truth then? Truth is what conforms to the mind of God, right? Right. So is Jesus' mind, does it conform to the mind of God?
Yes. I would say
well,
so.
There you go. Yeah. Welcome, Benjamin. Benjamin, are you there?
Hi. Give me just a second to sort out my audio, if you don't mind.
Good to see you, Benjamin.
Always a pleasure, Andrew.
So Andrew, getting back to Strong Atheist, he will not give up on this utter confabulation about the first law of thermodynamics. Because if he does give up on this confabulation, this unjustifiable and unwarranted extrapolation that is not representative whatsoever in scientific literature, right? Then he's going to have to come up with a new line of reasoning as for the non-eternality of God. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you ask him for any sources on what he's saying there?
I've done this on multiple occasions. I said, show me one reputable scientific site or scientific textbook that says that the first law of thermodynamics necessarily entails the way it is stipulated when it says matter is neither created nor destroyed, that the phrase neither created necessarily entails a past infinitude. Now, I said to him, you might find somewhere in the writings of someone who might be, let's say, a physicist, who is also dabbling in metaphysics and atheism, who might want to extrapolate from that. I said, but you're not going to find this in any standard scientific literature. Because induction, since science is largely inductive, you can't make declarations of infinitude from induction. Okay? So what he's doing is he's just simply capitalizing on the semantical construction as though it could be, because of the wording, neither created means it's past infinitude. If we say it's not created, it doesn't mean that it never came into existence. It means we don't know of any way by which matter can be created or destroyed within our uniform experience. But it doesn't mean the past infinitude of matter and energy. And he just won't get this out of his head because he's a self-imposed retard. It's just a form of persistent self-deception. But Romans 1 says they are without an excuse. So they turn and worship the creation. You'll notice that the order there in Romans 1 says they are without a defense, without an excuse. And then it says they turn and worship the creation. If somebody believes that the world around it is past infinite, this is simply a model which comes under the category heading of worshiping the creation. There's no way that this can be justified. But like I said, strong atheist suffers from trans-teenagerism. And many of the atheists that we encounter on Discord and in Clubhouse suffer from the same mental disorder.
So how did the conversation end? Did you have to kick him, or what happened?
I removed him because he was being as deceitful and deceptive as he always is. And remember, I've had dozens and dozens of interactions with this guy. Not just on Clubhouse, but on Discord as well.
Yeah.
He's delusional about the first law of thermodynamics.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
I apologize for the audio. Every time I go to a stage, it switches from my earpiece back to the phone and requires me to kind of manually switch it back, which is tricky while I'm driving. Good morning to everyone. I've got some time.
All right. What would you like to say?
I usually just drop by to see friends and say hi, but if you've got questions or
Well,
anything,
I'd like to know why right now, why your unbelief in Jesus Christ's self-identity claims is reasonable.
Okay. Unbelief in Jesus Christ's self-identity claims is...
that he's the second person of the Trinity. He's God manifest in the flesh, that he is the creator and that he is the Lord and the Savior, and he's coming back to judge the living and the dead. Why is your disbelief in his self-identity claims reasonable?
I think the basis for my disbelief in all 10,000 claims of God and religion are that there are 10,000 different claims. For me, that seems to be most of it.
Well, then, by that standard, you would have to reject your own belief system because it's one of a multitude of worldviews. I can play that game too.
I like that. I like that construction. I think you're right.
Yeah, that was a total evisceration of what you just said.
That's fine. I like that. I should be critical of my own worldviews.
Oh no!
I hope that I am.
No, that reasoning. If you're going to say that my God view is one of a plurality of views, well, then your position is also one of a plurality of views.
Yeah, it is. So I just leave the field undecided. I think
No, wrong. No, you're not undecided. Because in order for you to say the grass blows in the wind, that presupposes a model of reality. You couldn't otherwise say the grass blows in the wind.
No, I understand the trickiness there. And somehow
You're not neutral. You're not neutral. You are speaking out of a worldview. And you choose to reject the Christian worldview, the self-identity claims of the Christian worldview, and specifically the self-identity claims of Jesus Christ, and you reject it, as you just said, based upon the fact, well, that there's an alternative worldview. But here's the problem: such a notion is not coherent, because any worldview is incompatible with other worldviews. Okay? So the reason why you reject the Christian worldview is because you're operating from a worldview which contradicts the Christian worldview. It's not because there's a multiplicity of theistic worldviews. You oppose the Christian worldview because you're operating and reasoning from another worldview which contradicts the Christian worldview. So what is your worldview?
It's a moral argument. It's not an emotional argument. If you call that an emotional argument, maybe because of the tone of my voice, you're just doing dirty.
You can't appeal to rejecting a worldview because that there is a plurality of worldviews. Because you're operating from a worldview.
Yeah, it's not. I understand, and it's a good objection of yours, and I appreciate it.
So your objection is invalid. It's self-stultifying.
Yeah, largely it is if it were the case that I held the worldview in the same way.
Okay, so
I think that the difference is that I hold it in a different way.
So your first line of reasoning as to why Jesus Christ's self-identity claims doesn't hold water. I just showed you that it's self-refuting and self-stultifying. Okay?
I don't have that word, self-stultifying?
Yeah, it means it's self-refuting, self-destroying. Upon analysis, it implodes into foolishness.
Yeah. The only defense that I have left really is that I hold these things like you would hold them if there were 1,000 choices and you didn't know which one to choose.
You no longer can offer that. I just explained to you why that reasoning is not a rational basis to reject the self-identity claims of Jesus. So do you have any other grounds that your rejection of Jesus Christ's self-identity claims is reasonable?
Well, I think of all the options, it just seems...
You're repeating the same error again that I debunked.
Yeah, we often get stuck in circles, so I'll tell you what. I have enjoyed the interaction, and I learned something, and I think maybe we'll call it there and let somebody else talk, because
Benjamin doesn't have grounds to claim that his rejection of Jesus Christ's identity claims are reasonable.
None that I want to push beyond my welcome, right? So mostly I want to be civil.
Well, that's because I don't tolerate a descent into irrationality or deception. Not that I'm impugning you, but the point is this: your right out of the gate argument is, well, Jesus' self-identity claims are only one of many, and therefore they're equally valid explanations, right?
I didn't comment on the validity of the 10,000 claims. I just said
sir, no, but you see, then there's at least one or more models of reality, because Jesus Christ's self-identity claims constitutes a model of reality. Okay, so when you say that there are other worldviews out there, right? Then what you're saying is that there's one or more with the implication that they possess equal reasonableness. Therefore, it will nullify the indispensability of Jesus' self-identity claims. Okay?
Yeah, so from my perspective,
let me give you an
I
example.
know a few things. Well, wait a minute.
How old
are you here?
How old are you?
52.
Okay, you remember, you had to have watched the old Star Trek TV show, right?
You'd think so, right? But I grew up in a Christian community that didn't believe in television.
Okay, all right. Well, the old Star Trek TV show was an episode where there was a guy who was a what do they call him? A shapeshifter, right? And he could take on and he shapeshifted into the form of Captain Kirk. He looked like Captain Kirk, talked like Captain Kirk. And Spock comes into the room with his laser gun. And the one guy says, Spock, shoot him, he's the imposter. And the other Captain Kirk says, no, shoot him, he's the imposter. So now Spock, being logical, didn't shoot right away. It took him a while with the dialogue between the two competing Captain Kirks for him to use his logic to differentiate which one indicated was the real Captain Kirk versus the imposter. But before he had figured out that, before they kept on talking, he didn't shoot one of them. Because what he was presented with were two equally appearing options. Your position is that there are one or more models of reality that have equal explanatory power. But that's an indefensible position. Okay?
Yeah, I hear you. I would just maybe offer like a notion that I understand to be true the things that I can touch and feel and see, and then working from those things, some things that I can't touch and feel and see, and none of that process gets me to the claims that Jesus makes of Trinitarian identity.
You're avoiding the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is, your position is that there are one or more worldviews that have equal explanatory powers. Therefore, Jesus' self-identity claims are not indispensable. So, what worldview are you speaking from that has equal explanatory power? What is it that is fundamental and foundational within your worldview, as opposed to Jesus Christ, that institutes what is, can be, and cannot be? What is that?
I would describe it as real naturalism.
No, that's a typical response I get when you don't know what to say. You just give out a generalization. Okay, I get this all the time from unbelievers. They'll say science, they'll say reality, they'll say existence, they'll say the cosmos. Okay, these are generalizations.
Those sounds like reasonable responses.
No, they're not. They're not reasonable responses. What they are is an all-inclusive generalization which pretends to be an answer, which is not an answer. Suppose all we had were 10 marbles, right, in a thought experiment, right? And each marble is discrete from 9 other marbles. There's just 10 marbles, right? And I then said to you, what is it that dictates what each marble is? Okay? You could say, well, marble number 3 is what it is, can be, and cannot be by virtue of marble number 6. Or you could say marble number 3 is what it is by virtue of marble number 6 and 7. Okay? Or you could say that all the marbles except marble number 3 dictate what marble number 3 is. Or you could say all the marbles. Okay? Now, if you say all the marbles, that's not coherent. Let alone, it's not defensible. How is it coherent to say marbles 1 through 10 dictate what marble number 3 is, can be, and cannot be? And if you say all the marbles dictate what marble number 2 is, and all the marbles dictate what number 5 is. That's not coherent.
Yeah, so let me try to respond to this, or no?
All right, let me just give you an analogy. Suppose we have something hanging from a chain, okay? And I say, well, let's say it's a street light, right? And all that's holding up is a chain. And I say to you, what fundamentally is keeping the street light from hitting the pavement? And you say, well, the links, okay? All the links, right? Now, what if there were 2 chains holding up the street light? Well, if we're talking about normal gravity, each chain would only be securing the street light only in part, not in whole. Now, if we dismember or cut one of the chains, okay, then the second chain now is holding up the street light in its entirety. But prior to it, it was only dictating in part what holding up that street light. Likewise, if you say that all the marbles dictate what an individual marble is, this is not coherent. It's not even defensible. It's an answer that you give when you don't know what to say. Okay?
Yeah, if you want a response to that, the one I would offer is my understanding of this ability to distinguish between marbles. It is just the case that many life forms on Earth cannot. Trees cannot. A blade of grass does not have any use for nor ability to distinguish between marbles. But higher animal forms develop some ability to distinguish. It's probable that
you do what you always
minor forms don't.
You're doing what you always
humans do, and that characteristic of humans to distinguish.
Benjamin, I got to interrupt you. You're doing what you always do. You're rabbit trailing. How fitting your avatar is. You're talking about a subject matter that we're not even talking about. Okay?
Well, let me just say that I think that distinguishing is an emergent characteristic of our minds, and that those distinctions are arbitrary and subjective.
Again, you're changing the subject. Okay? Either one thing that is concrete is ultimate, that dictates all discrete instances, or there is not one concrete thing that dictates all instances. Now, if we have 2 things that are discrete and that they're eternal, either one of them exists with independence from each other because they're not concretely unified by a third. Okay? So just like it's incoherent to say that the set dictates the individual discreteness of the 2 eternal things, likewise it would be incoherent to say all 10 marbles dictate what each individual marble is. Okay?
So I had an experience the other day that reminded me of this analogy that you give, because you give this, often. I had a haircut, and I wondered after the haircut if I was sitting in the chair or if I was lying all over the ground and being swept into a dustbin. In a way, like, the ephemeralness of me is strange. I could lose a leg and still be, in a word, me. I could lose a lot of things and still be me. I could probably lose most of who I am, of my parts, and still be me. But then would I be me, or would the other part be me?
No, you're not focusing. Okay.
I think that identity is an emergent property of the whole. That's what I'm getting at.
No.
And it's ephemeral. It's not a clear line.
No, identity has to be it has to be an emergent property of whatever is the absolute. If nothing is singularly and concretely identified as the absolute, you have no identity. Something has to be absolute in order for identity to be eternal or temporal. So let me get back to...
I think we could agree to disagree on this because I feel differently about it.
That's because you're not thinking coherently about it. That's why. If we have two things that are discrete, right? They simply exist,
right,
discretely from each other, and they're eternal. Then there's nothing that concretely unifies them or instantiates it in them. I then ask you, why does thing one or thing two exist? You can't say, well, because of both of them. That would not be coherent.
What if we took the kind of rare case of Siamese twins who are joined, let's say, at the hip and together have only two legs? Is this two things or one thing? How would we identify its thing number?
It's two persons that have a conjoined biological existence. They have a codependency.
Right. So we could think of almost everything as being a little bit, complex in this way.
No, but okay, good. Then what you're thinking of is then that if we're going to set up aside the issue of personhood, okay, and we're just going to focus on biology alone, not personhood, because personhood is not a biological notion, okay? Now, then the Siamese twin is one thing. It's just a double-headed thing.
Right. So then it becomes arbitrary because then I'll be definition of what a thing is.
Well,
if a thing is what person, then it's two. And if biological, then one.
You're not understanding. Okay, I can't get you to understand the incoherence of saying everything dictates. When you say that everything dictates what is, right? You're talking about an abstract set. There's not something that concretely unifies the plurality of things. So then the problem then becomes is marble number 10 only plays a part of why marble number 3 exists. Right?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think that works for me.
But here's the problem. Then there isn't one thing that dictates why anything exists.
Bingo. That's where I am.
Right. So
you don't have to be here with me, but that's where I am.
Then what you have is chaos.
Oh, listen, my world, my mind is very chaotic. I'm not going to argue with you on that.
Then, therefore, if you have chaos, there is not one discrete, concrete thing that dictates everything.
Right.
Okay. Right. Now, as a result, there, you can't speak intelligibly as to what anything is.
Well, let's let the audience decide if I speak intelligently.
Now, you're talking now about semantic intelligibility. I'm talking about metaphysical intelligibility, which is different. Now, how could you possibly know such a universal notion? Could you tell me that?
How could I know such a universal notion as what we've just described, which is that not any one thing is fully determinate of the whole?
No, you're making a universal declaration in order to evade God as the universal. Now, by what means do you make this universal declaration? Is it by pure reason? Is it by experience, or a combination of the two?
Well, it's probably that and intuition and frustration and exploration.
Explain to me how you rationally made that universal declaration and why it's true.
Well, in part, this thought experiment about me getting a haircut, and which was me, the me on the floor, the me in the chair.
Benjamin, stop. You're doing what you always do. You have a flight of thought. You don't focus on the question that I put to you. Benjamin, how were you able to determine that any universal declaration, including the one that you have stipulated, by what means did you determine that it is necessarily true? Or is it a figment of your imagination?
I think that it starts out as a figment of my imagination, and I don't know when it will get more credibility than just that.
Yeah, blah, 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 wah. Nice impersonation of Charlie Brown's teacher. By what means did you determine such a universal declaration is true?
I don't, but I would like to hear other people's thoughts on this.
So
maybe together we can learn.
So your universal declaration is nothing more than a figment of your imagination.
I would say now it is nothing more than a figment of my imagination.
Good. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day. Okay. So he just admitted that his God denialism is a figment of his imagination. There you go, folks. Okay? There you go. Andrew, did you see there? We have proof positive here of the suppression of the truth and unrighteousness. They want to make a universal negation that God does not exist because all of the plurality of things that exist all dictate what each of the other particulars are. And when I ask him by what means he can tell us that that's necessarily true, he has nothing. So basically what he's saying is God does not exist because it's a figment of his imagination that God doesn't exist. Now, is that not proof positive of Romans 1, Andrew?
You know, that problem he brought up with the barber analogy, I don't understand how he can recognize that as a problem and just ignore it. I mean, if his soul, if his being is just a total of the parts, then yeah, when you get your hair cut, that's you down there on the floor, and you are no longer you. You know, if you remove an arm or a leg, if you have two piles of carnage, which one is you? Are you a split personality now? Which one do you bury?
See, there are two problems. One is how do they defend the coherence of saying everything dictates particularity? Well, really? That's nonsense. Then how is something particular then? How is it discrete? If every particular dictates what every particular is, then there aren't any particulars. Okay? And you see the incoherence of this? No, go away, Benjamin. It's the same confusion. Now, he just admitted he has no rational grounds for asserting that universal declaration. But that universal declaration is that everything dictates each individual particularity, not God. But he admits that such a universal declaration is a figment of his imagination. So he's basically conceded to the fact that his God denialism and that his denial of the self-identity claims of Jesus Christ, his denial is a figment of his imagination. Okay? That's not, I'm not putting words into his mouth. He admitted that his universal declaration is nothing more than is a figment of his imagination. See, when you talk with Benjamin and other people like him on Discord, they pretend like they're focused on what you're saying, but they're just using what they're saying as a springboard to rabbit trail towards some semi-related, no pun intended, rabbit trail. No, Benjamin, stop raising your hand. We're done with you. Okay, it's the same old claptrap. You refuse to focus. You're polite and you're cordial, but you just meander in the conversations. You don't stay focused. But I want to thank you for admitting that your God denialism is a figment of your imagination. Okay? That your stipulation that the all of the members of the set of everything dictate what each individual thing is, and that you have no justification for it. It's a figment of your imagination. People will say the most ridiculous, convoluted things that they know they're pulling out of their rear end as long as they don't have to acknowledge God.
At the beginning of the conversation, he admitted that his position was arbitrary. He said, well, there's all of these different worldviews, and I just pick one because I don't know. That's what he said. I don't believe that.
Well, he started off by saying his rejection of the self-identity claims of Jesus are because that it's one of a plurality of views, with the implication being that they have equal explanatory power. Okay? So you are correct then. Then, by implication, the worldview that he is talking out of has equal explanatory power with other worldviews, therefore it's arbitrary.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him defend that. That there's more than one worldview with explanatory powers.
Yeah. Welcome to the room, Zeus. What would you like to say?
Could you prove to me that the world is 6,000 years old without asking me questions?
Are you Yuri from Discord?
Okay, so can you do it without asking questions?
I asked you a question. Are you Yuri from Discord?
I guess you can't.
Okay, so you don't want to answer the question. Bye. You're kicked from the room.
I'm not on Discord, dude. What are you talking about?
Oh, you're not Yuri? You're not Yuri from Discord?
No, I'm Zeus Yuri from Clubhouse.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll humor you for the moment. What's your question?
I said, can you prove to me that the world is 6,000 years old without asking me questions?
Yeah, I proved to you that the only way that proof comes via knowledge, and knowledge can only actually exist by virtue of a revelatory action of God.
Using your Bible, can you prove to me that the world is 6,000 years old?
Yeah. God being the creator and omniscient observer and always truth revealing, has made an observation, if you will, if we can use that terminology for God. He has given testimony that the earth was created a short time ago. If you reject that, then there is no grounds for proof metaphysically.
So you can't give me like a number, right? Is that what you're saying?
You want an exact number of how old the Earth is?
Yeah, because generally,
well, based upon the genealogies, we would say that the Earth is 6 or so thousand years ago. Some people might want to allow it for 7 or 8,000 years. Okay, but it's around 6,000 years ago, maybe 1,000 more, depending on the genealogies that you have.
I got you. So you use the genealogies that are found in the...
Yeah. Now, do you believe that the Earth is old?
old? I guess that's relative.
Do you believe the Earth is old rather than it is young in terms of thousands of years? That its inception is only thousands of years? That's what I mean by old.
Correct. I believe the world is old, according to that.
Okay. And can you prove that?
I can't prove it because I'm not a scientist in that area.
Can any scientist prove that?
But that would be for them to argue it, I guess.
So no, the answer is they can't. Do you know why? It's because all conclusions in science are provisional, okay, and are subject to change, alteration, refutation based upon a re-examination of the data or some future observation that may negate that provisional conclusion. So truth, science is not in the business of truth declarations. It's in the business of making provisional conclusions. Okay? Now, do you accept that science is driven by
provisional conclusions based on genealogy?
Do I have a provisional conclusion about the age of the Earth? No. It's not provisional. It's, as far as I'm concerned, that whatever God reveals is to be reckoned as utterly true and not provisional. Okay? The reason why you believe the Earth is old is because you grew up in a complete educational atmosphere that has adopted the paradigm that the universe and the Earth is old because they adopted the theory of evolution in the late 1890s, the late 19th century into the 20th century, and that the Earth, from their perspective, would have to be accepted as old, otherwise evolution dies right away. Charles Darwin needed the Earth to be old from his understanding and perspective in order for small fortuitous changes to accumulate in order for there to be a diversity of life. Then, after the theory of evolution became entrenched throughout the world and academia, through a process of confirmation bias, they only began looking for things that would give them reasons to believe the Earth was old. So I ask you a very simple question. So other than the fact that there's widespread belief that the universe is old and the Earth is old, what is your reason for believing that?
I said I can't really answer the questions because I'm not.
Neither can I.
But I was asking you questions in terms of how you can.
I gave you. I answered all your questions.
Correct. So let's go back to so you're saying basically if you take the Bible literally, then you would be creation didn't if it evolved within days. Is that your belief?
Yeah, I take it that God communicated to us in plain, ordinary language in Genesis 1, Genesis 2, and other parts of the Bible to communicate that the world was brought into existence by a fiat creation as opposed to eons of purely mechanistic occurrences at a molecular level.
So you're saying it actually happened within days?
Yes.
Wow, doesn't that seem like a stretch to you?
Only if you have a pre-commitment to naturalism or materialism. But you see, I don't have a bias toward naturalism or materialism, but you do.
Well, yeah, because I base my things on science and what I could see in science and trips.
Okay, well, here's the problem.
I know things take a long time to create. It doesn't create.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Do you believe that there are laws of nature?
Yes, I believe in laws of nature.
Okay. Now, we typically call that the uniformity of nature. Now, has science proven the uniformity of nature?
Yes.
No, that's categorically false, what you just said.
That's your opinion.
Okay, yeah, that's the kind of response I would expect from a 15-year-old. Science cannot prove the uniformity of nature. Okay? Science can observe instances which may be reoccurring, and that those reoccurring instances, they may extrapolate that there is something greater that is imposing those reoccurrences that they call the uniformity of nature. But the uniformity of nature is not something that can be directly be seen. It's a conceptual frame of reference that we use to interpret reoccurring similar instances. Okay? So the uniformity of nature, science cannot prove, can science prove there are other minds?
So going on that premise and using the uniformity of nature to prove that something could be created that complex within that short of time period.
Yeah, I prove things that we do so by knowledge, and knowledge is rooted in God's revelatory actions, which include his eyewitness testimony of his acts of creation. Otherwise, nothing could be provable. If all knowledge isn't rooted in the mind and the revelatory and creative actions of God, then how would there be knowledge?
I'm not talking the mind, I'm talking tangible, something that...
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna listen, I'm having a little trouble with you, and the trouble I'm having is you're not really focusing on what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want an answer, okay?
No, I know how you play the game. Just ask me a bunch of questions. You can't really
listen to me.
your questions.
Are we going to have a conversation? Have I not been straightforwardly answering your questions?
No, you can put me back down.
Okay. How old are you?
You can put me back down, thank you.
Okay, so you don't want to have an adult conversation, so I'll just assume that
I know how you play the game. You just keep asking other people questions.
I'm not playing the game.
Answer the questions that they ask.
No, you keep on. So I should just sit idly by while you make naked assertions?
No, I'm just asking you questions and asking you to answer them.
Well, I've been answering your questions.
Not me answering.
Is there any one question that I haven't answered of yours?
Yeah, going back to how can you explain that something so complex can be created so quickly? That was my last question.
Why? Because all possibility in terms of what is, can be, and cannot be is rooted foundationally in the mind of God.
No, outside of the mind, something tangible, something that exists in the earth, that not something concept in the mind. I'm talking something tangible on earth.
You're asking me to leave my model of reality, which is not something I can do.
Okay, then I guess that you see the model of reality through your mind, and I see it something as more something I can actually see or touch. So I guess that's
well. Well, there are many things that you believe in that you can't see or touch.
Yeah, but we're looking at the physical flow of the earth. Is what I was talking about. So
are you a verificationist?
I don't know what I am.
A verificationist is somebody who says the only propositions that are worthy of acceptance are those that we can detect through our senses. Are you a verificationist?
I'm a verification when it comes to the history of the earth and something I can see, I guess. I mean, all those are pretty complex systems, and to create something so complex within like 24 hours is just beyond natural law. So, I mean, if that's how you believe, that's fine. I mean,
You're contradicting yourself, Zeus, because when you were asked to defend your position with some sort of scientific argument,
I'm not trying to defend my position.
Hold on. You conceded that you don't have one, and that's left to the scientists. But then when you're asked your position, then you appeal to the scientists again. So which is it?
Yeah.
Either you have the argument or you don't. Which is it?
I don't have an argument. I didn't come here to argue my argument. I was asking your worldview. I was just asking your worldview. How you determine it.
I gave it, but then you're making objections, and we're responding to your objections. Now you
I'm just trying to understand how you can create something like that.
Zeus, I'm becoming impatient with you because you're bordering on being rude. Now, I want you to stop that. Now, you said you want something tangible. Natural law is not something that is tangible. It is conceptual. It is beyond. Natural law is not justifiable by any particular sensory experience. And in fact, sensory experience even presupposes the concept of natural law. So natural law is not something that you can ground by appealing to your senses. Do you understand that?
I could see some things in natural law that
Okay, all right, listen. Okay. I'm dead serious about this question. How old are you?
Again, this is just not a form of me asking me questions. I know that's how you operate.
All right, goodbye. Okay, all right. So we removed him. So we have another example within the epidemic of trans teenagerism. Okay. He wants to sit there and shoot his mouth off that he only accepts things that are tangible. But then he wants to invoke concepts that are not demonstrable in terms of any discrete sensory experience. And in fact, sensory experience itself has to presuppose conceptually that there is a realm that exists that provides for a sensory experience. See, these are atheists that are completely moronic when it comes to basic concepts in philosophy and the philosophy of science. The guy's a walking, talking verificationist and empiricist. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that empiricism is self-refuting. Right? When did he experience through his hearing, touch, taste, or smell natural law? How did you experience natural law? What he's going to say is there'll be a certain event that he is reporting on from his sense experience, and that it would be indicative or extrapolated that it is the product of natural law. Okay? Well, what if it's the case that certain apparent consistencies or continuity is pure happenstance? Okay? Because he rules out the ubiquity of happenstance, of a total chance world, right? Because he believes that there's something dictating whatever real regularity there is, he can then make sense of his world. But how does he have immediate, tangible observation of that which dictates the realness of continuity? Well, the answer is he doesn't. But he doesn't care about any of this. You see, all they want to do is they just want to bicker. They want to ignore. Have you noticed there's redefined that how they totally ignore the cogent rebuttals that we make? They completely ignore it, and then they just go on, go wah 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 wah. They just ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah, he said that he doesn't believe in a young fiat creation because of science, but then when asked what that would be, what would that objection be? What scientific explanation specifically? He says, well, he doesn't know.
The funny thing is, I'm reading a book right now on the major problems of Big Bang cosmology that are not discussed openly in the public or documentaries or even at, let's say, an undergraduate level in college or in high school. People do not know the major problems and conflicts within Big Bang cosmology. They just think that, well science described it because the Big Bang, the Big Bang, the Big Bang, the Big Bang. And they like, oh, we discovered that we came from the Big Bang. No, this is just a popular materialistic retrodictive explanation, which is called the Standard Model. Okay? The idea that the universe is old is based upon certain underlying beliefs that are in and of themselves unverifiable. Like that the speed of light is the same everywhere in a vacuum. Well, they can't justify that. Like, for example, there is a provisional conclusion that's widespread about the Higgs field and the Higgs boson, that the Higgs field is what gives things mass. Okay? Now, they believe that the speed of light is the same here on Earth as it is out in deep space. Has anybody tested that?
Yeah, and that's based on a convention also.
Exactly, yes. So, for example, there's one YouTube science site, which is pretty good, even though it's done by non-believers, and he points out the common notion that the speed of light is dictated by photons themselves is not necessarily true. He points out that the speed of light may itself be dictated by the rate of causation. Okay? I mean, look how Einstein's theory of relativity revolutionized our world. That rather than gravity thoroughly being thought of as a force, remember Newton's laws of mechanics, Newton's laws of motion were accepted because of their widespread predictive capability. And that Newton was convinced that gravity was a force. But Einstein's theory of relativity completely replaced that gravity is not a force, but that gravity is just simply the phenomenon of large objects curving what is referred to as time-space.
Darth, wouldn't you say that causality is an abstract concept? Or abstract?
Of course it is.
How can it affect the speed of light then?
Say that again?
How can it affect the speed of light if it's abstract?
Oh, because it's not purely and only abstract. So for example, if I talk about humanity, is the term humanity abstract?
The term humanity, yes.
Yeah. So is humanity fictional?
No.
Okay, so something can be abstract in that the unification or the articulation takes place in the mind, whereas the particulars of the set are real. Okay.
Gotcha.
Some things that are conceptual exist only in the mind. Other things that are conceptual are in the mind, but are congruent with what things are, but are not tangible by our immediate sense experience. Okay? So the uniformity of nature, I believe, is real, but the uniformity of nature from our perspective is conceptual in that we can't demonstrate in any particular instance of sensory experience the uniformity of nature, but that must be presupposed. Okay? So when I say something is conceptual, in certain instances I'm referring to it only resides in the mind alone. Or it can refer to that it's a concept in the mind which is intended to communicate a wider sphere or state of affairs that we don't have immediate access to in terms of our immediate sense experience. The problem is we're dealing with a lot of people that don't even have the basic of the philosophy of science. And they make elementary blunders. That if they're going to believe, they'll say, well, if I'm going to believe something, you're going to have to prove it. There's a whole array of things that you believe in that you can't prove. Okay? How do you prove that there are universal invariant laws of logic? How do you prove that? How do you prove there are other minds?